Now it's being recorded. So the point of this is I'm going to go over the open items so that we can get obviously your help, other people who watch this video later to help us, and then it'll be pretty brief. I try to restrict this to hopefully 15 minutes here, and then if we have questions or we can have further chats kind of on the Slack room afterwards. And actually next week is Google I/O, so I think it's going to be hard to get Patrick and Jeff Cross and a lot of the other people's time. So I think a lot of it is going to end up getting a lot of the discussion and everything will get pushed to the week after that, so 2 weeks from today. So yeah, let's just go through a couple of things. The first one, and this is among the high priority. I didn't further prioritize this stuff, so basically everything that's high is kind of equally weighted right now. And let me just bump up the. So this was actually in general this first one, and there's one later for the docs. Like basically, I'm taking this on that the microsite right now is just a quick thing I added during ngconf, but this weekend hopefully I'll have time. I'm gonna revamp it with a new quick start guide, which is more thorough, and make it more mobile friendly and browser friendly. I think the person who entered this mentioned that it's not working on a couple of browsers and whatever. It was basically a quick thing that the Wrangle guys put together for the documentation site, and so it should get much better over the course of the next couple of weeks. This next one, 307. So this is not something that you should do normally with server rendering. Use this is server as client thing. Actually, we're going to change the name of this, but basically we do need an escape hatch for certain scenarios where you can basically pull in from the universal library a value that you know the context of where it is. So not just is server as client, but just whatever. Even expanding out to other contexts, you should be able to say am I in mobile? Am I running in a mobile device? Am I running in the browser? Am I running, in Node on the server or whatever? So we are going to have something in the framework. Patrick needs this anyways for one of the things he's doing, so I think he's going to have this in. The Broccoli issue, this is Jeff Cross is working on the Broccoli renderer. He's using it for the progressive web apps thing that he's doing, but obviously other people can use it. I misspelled Broccoli. Yeah. Anyway, for 407, this is one thing I'm working on, that the Express engine and the Happy engine, the other engines that are wrappers around the universal library, currently with Preboot it adds it as a actual external JavaScript file instead of inline, and that actually will cause a problem on slow network devices. We actually have to inline this JavaScript. Right now, it is a good amount of, I think it's Preboot is 15K or something like that. But John, one of the changes I'll talk about later, John is working on refactoring Preboot to work with multiple apps. And then after he's done, I have a further refactor that's going to reduce it down to on the order of 4K. It's going to be super small. So once we do that, inlining will be, trivial. Okay, so this one actually should be fixed. I got to check this again for 395, so no action needed here. This one we could use some help on, 294. So basically, the reason why template URL style URLs don't work is because it doesn't know. We basically have to patch zones and essentially add a monkey patch so that underneath the scenes it knows how to, the template URL, it knows how to look through the file system on the server side to find the right file, because you're not making a request. Like on the client side, you're making an external request if it's not packaged with the JavaScript, the Angular client-side lib. So on the server side, you need to actually search through the file system or look through a particular place. So I think think Patrick was starting to work on this, but he hasn't really done anything yet.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
Doesn't that one go away with the offline template compilation?
What do you think about that?
Because the offline template compilation is going to bring the template and the styles into the JavaScript file for you.
That is true. I think it will, actually. Let me make a note. I wasn't even thinking about that. Okay. Mike, thanks for that point. It's a good one.
No problem.
Okay. Oh, this was the thing, Mark. I think you were starting to talk to Patrick about this. This is that Steve Sanderson wanted the ability from the .NET integration to render a single component instead of the entire page. I don't know where this went. Did you actually end up talking to Patrick about this at all?
I didn't get to talk to him. I guess he's been really busy, but doing that parse fragment thing that made it return just like the app or whatever. But I just want to talk to Pat, make sure there's nothing else I'm missing, and
okay.
I guess if we do that, I don't know how we're going to do like the universal styles and that kind of stuff. So.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I do know what you mean. So I would suggest just ping him again, and he is busy, but like I've come to understand with his workflow that you just got to keep pinging him.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know it. He keeps it on the top of the stack. You know what I mean? So
You gotta keep poking him. Eventually, he'll say something. You know?
Yeah. So 9 is the thing I mentioned again for fixing the microsites. Okay, so bench press here. So right this very second, we don't want to do this, but once the offline template compilation is kind of settled and we have it integrated and fully tested with Universal, which we haven't really done yet, then I want to run a bunch of benchmarks and start publishing those. So for anybody who's interested in like performance and that type of thing, probably I would think in a couple weeks out, once we have the offline template compilation thing fully working, then this would be a good one. The 247 is just a list of stuff that it's a list of all the other stuff, so we'll go over that, skip over that. Yeah, CLI. So I'm glad, Mike, that you're here.
Yeah, that's kind of why I joined.
Yeah. So Wesley was starting to think about this, but I mean, he's gotten sidetracked by some other work-related stuff, or maybe this is the sidetrack. I don't know, whatever. But we do want to have a strong integration with the CLI. So I guess the first thing we were going to do for this that I talked to Wesley about, and I'd be curious to get your opinions on approach here. But I mentioned to him of just like specking out, what are the things that we would want to set up. So like obviously the initial setup, like just like you have 0, like nothing, no project or whatever, and you're just creating a new one. So like that's like in my mind the first use case, like the quick start basically.
Yes.
Of scaffolding out, universal app. But then after that, it kind of is not as clear. Like there's a ton of different things we could do. Like okay, someone has an existing app and you want to make it universal. So like how easy is that? Or like the different variations. So I'm not quite sure of the direction we go or a series of steps. So if you have any guidance here, it would be appreciated.
Yeah, well, we can definitely talk through that. Especially, I'm pretty sure Jeff Cross has actually started a little bit on this as well because he needs some of the universal for the PWAs.
Yes. That is true. Yeah, he did do a little bit of this for the PWAs. Yep.
And then ideally, it would even not necessarily be in the same repo as the CLI, but as an add-on to the CLI, so it's completely separate and maintainable.
Yep. Yeah, as a plugin. Yeah, sure. That would be great. So I think the first step here is we'll create just a spec of like what we want to do, and then we'll go over with you, Mike, and kind of build it out from there.
That works.
Okay. So these next 3 are so something basically that Patrick was trying to get into core. Essentially a set of common services that we know are needed, like, wraparound local storage, right? Like the equivalent of like $cookie in Angular 1, and some other stuff, like some stuff for SEO, for modifying the title and that type of thing, which there is some functionality for that in Angular 2 core now that they added. But basically, there's a series of different things that universal services. And what we decided last week when we were talking is that we're going to actually create under the universal repo, we're just going to create a separate module that just contains a suite of almost like, I guess, just like a set of services that are kind of on top of everything. And the reason for this is just like everybody's running into the same issues, and the alternative to this is that we could, and I am going to have a recipes section of the documentation, and you could just say, okay, that's sufficient for everybody. But at the end of the day, a lot of this is pretty vanilla. It's just like everybody needs to, for example, be able to access cookies, be able to on both the client and server, and to do like redirects, which are slightly different, various things like that. So we'll see where this goes. Basically, we tried to do it in core, but Mishko was trying to keep things pretty thin there, so he kind of punted that back. So for now, I think the idea is we're going to just add them as a module in under Universal. Wasim started to work on this, and once I get a hold of Patrick, I think the next steps here is we just have to take what Wasim was starting to work on, get it into the new module, and then from there, other people can pretty easily help out to add like any number of other new services. Does that make sense? Okay. And then we'll just go over the high stuff today. So, oh yeah, this was just like a small thing, but it's kind of annoying that I hate getting warnings and errors, even though like some people are used to them with the TypeScript, the compile and everything like that. But I want to eventually make it pretty clean, and there's just one annoying thing that, there's some source map references. I'm not a Webpack master, so I know this should be pretty easy, but if one of you guys are like really proficient in Webpack and just want to modify the build process to strip out the, or either strip them out or make sure that they're included properly, just whatever, just to make sure that we don't see the warnings from basically within some of the libraries that we're referencing. Source map, so that's just a small one.
You can give that to me if you want. I think I remember seeing that. I don't know if it went away, but
you're right, Mark, that there was. I fixed one thing, so like part of it went away, but there's still like one other. It's kind of this nagging.
Yeah. And now there's all those other weird errors with like something to do with core. So I don't know if there's something we're doing or.
Is that just this week you saw that?
Yeah, I think you had it up top somewhere. I forget which bug it is.
Okay.
Like the browser errors. There's like 6 of them for some reason.
Okay. This one I got to talk to Patrick about 377. I think he was saying that it was somebody who was using Angular Meteor and something related to how zones was being applied with that. I got to look into this one more. Oh, so for this one, I actually, I don't think we're going to do anything on this actually. I think this is more of a documentation thing. So this is actually related to one thing in the Universal Starter issues that came up, where basically the base gist is that people were trying to use, in the Angular Starter issue, it was that people were using a jQuery plugin underneath the scenes that was obviously referencing, the jQuery plugins are all tightly coupled to the DOM. But in this case, they were trying to do some DOM-related functionality directly. And I guess the question is like when you, or the thing here, which is the reason why I'm saying it's a documentation thing, is that like ultimately what in both cases they were trying to do is that they were trying to have one component like find another and then do something to it. And I guess we could like monkey patch like all this like actual DOM related API stuff to provide some equivalent functionality, but that is probably a losing proposition just because you're going to end up going down a rabbit hole. So I think the thing we're going to try to recommend more so is that you can keep the client-side version of your code that's using whatever DOM related APIs, but just you should just do a different server implementation that just uses the pure Angular APIs. So like it's on a case-by-case basis, but like in some of the examples, and I'm trying to like go through it with like some of the people who brought stuff up. But like for one thing where like this guy was doing like a query selector to like get certain other components, like you can actually do that in your code as is. You don't have to use the actual DOM API query selector in order to find the other components. So I guess we just have to provide the other alternatives of like what's the pure Angular implementation of this thing. So I'll try to create a section in the docs on this type of stuff. Moving the namespace, sure, yeah, we're gonna do that at some point. Yeah, so the one thing just to be aware is for the preboot smaller. I sort of alluded to it earlier, but what I realized at ngConflow, just whatever, like I think I was just thinking about things and then woke up one morning, is that actually preboot will eventually, once we do the multiple app support that John is working on, basically I'm going to do another refactor to split preboot into two, because the initial version that's included with the server view doesn't actually have to have the replay functionality. It just has to have the record, because technically all you're doing with the server view until the client is active is recording. So you can set it up so that only that recording code is there, which is really small. And then the second part, which does all the replaying, we can just have as a separate JavaScript package that you would just include in your build process like normal, and is downloaded like normal with all the other client-side JavaScript. So that will actually speed things up, make it more efficient, all that type of stuff. The only other thing I mentioned, we don't have to go over the other ones today, but actually the one thing that's not high priority per se, but there is going to be some activity on, is the support for other languages. Like during Brad's keynote, I was actually surprised that he got into a little bit of the support for other languages, because it's not really super worked out yet. It's more like prototype phase, but there's a lot of interest. Like, I mean, it was kind of overwhelming interest from so many people that came up to me at ngConf for like this 280, 281, Java backend, and then Go backend and PHP. So you will see some activity both in the Slack room and other places where I'm trying to organize some of these other communities. Like I can't lead these efforts, myself or whatever, but there's people that have stepped up who basically say that they want to take ownership over it, and we just have to provide guidance. So probably not next week because Google I/O, but the week after we're going to have a series of meetings that if any of you guys on the phone call are interested in one of these other backends, I can add you to the list or whatever. But yeah, it's basically going to be Java, PHP, and Go to start off with, and then if those are successful, hopefully we'll just have a model where then whoever else is interested and there's the capability, they can kind of go from there.
Is it going to be similar to like the .NET?
Yeah.
Implementation, or you think it's a lot different?
I mean, at a high level, like the interface will be similar. It'll be slightly different for each implementation because there's like different, like Java, for example, has like Nashorn that they use in one approach. you can do like inter-process communication, or they have this new thing of J2V8, which is just another way of like essentially having Java talk directly to JavaScript without like in the same process, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
So yeah, the people that are in these discussion groups, the issues on the Angular Universal Repo are like super into it. So it's kind of cool to see the enthusiasm there. So I'm just trying to remove the barriers for right now and let them have at it, because it looks like they'll be able to start making some. They already have kind of broken through and made some progress even without me giving them much guidance. So it's pretty cool.
Nice.
So that is all I was going to go over today. But yeah, open it up if you guys have any questions or things you wanted to discuss.
I think I had one. Shoot. Kind of forgot it.
Yeah, no worries. We can, even though Google I/O is next week, I'm not going, so we can definitely have another one of these, quick one of these next week, and then the week after when Patrick and everyone's back, we'll go in more depth on some of this stuff.
Jeff, were you saying Pascal and them, they're in Boston next week, right?
That's true, yeah, I gotta remember to sync back up with those guys. So it's Pascal and Lucas.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I fly in Tuesday, I think around noon, and I'm there till Friday night, so
Okay, yeah. Let's see if we can
do whatever.
hook up. Yeah, let's talk offline about your schedule. But yeah, I definitely want to hang out, grab a beer.
Yeah, just have some beer, do some Angular, whatever.
Yeah. Anyways, okay.
Awesome.
Anything else, guys?
I don't think so. Is there any of these you want me to look into, or
Yeah. So.
at least try?
You mentioned the one. But you already working on
You just get it started from that, you know?
Yeah. So the source map one, yeah, take a look at that for sure.
I'll look at that.
And then there'll be a lot more that are more easily available. Once basically I get up the initial documentation on the one of the big things besides just getting the initial quick start out there and such is that we're trying to set things up so that you can essentially just publish markdown files for the doc site, and an easier way to publish code there and such. There's a couple of things there that once that's like kind of smoothed over the process, then I'm going to actually open up a couple different documentation related issues, and those will be like easy ones that obviously we'll need as much help as you can, and it should be easy ones for any of you guys to kind of grab and just.
And I was even thinking like the quick start or the starter.
Yeah.
That you have some of those best practices kind of wrapped in it, and even in the HTML, just kind of like stay away from this, do this, you know. Just so that people give less issues, so they're, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Get bugs for stuff that isn't a bug, you know. Kind of stuff.
Yeah, agreed.
Nice.
Okay, so that's it for this week. Just ping me on Slack if you guys have any questions. All right?
Awesome.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff, feel free to have Wesley get in touch with me whenever he shakes free.
Will do. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Yep.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah,
I was
Mark.
going to ask you something. The CLI, do you have to do a new app with it to use it, or can you have like an existing app?
You can run it against an existing app. It'll try and scaffold up the missing files, ng-init. Some people, I think, may have been having issues with that, so you might want to, definitely make sure that you have a backup of your project. Definitely commit before you
Before it destroys it. Yeah, because I was just wondering if I could use like some of the generators and all that stuff, but like kind of keep my own scaffolding, all that stuff. But I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, I think there's been some discussion about trying to make it a little bit more portable and not have that hard requirement of it being within a CLI project.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot and let you know if it blows everything up.
That works. Shoot me a line.
All right, man.
All right, bye.
See you guys.